Can we trust the Fed based on what the Inspector General, the report that they just released? Do you feel confident about the U.S. Central Bank?
Yes, I do. I think the change in procedures as far as reporting and trading, what you're allowed to do from a trading perspective, has been tightened up considerably in light of what happened. And I think that the regime today is, far better than what we had before.
Bill, how damaging overall over the last couple of years was this to the Federal Reserve, or at least the appearance of the Federal Reserve?
Well, I mean, anything that caused them to question the impartiality of the Fed, or the idea that the Fed was somehow, people were trading on information that wasn't public, obviously that's terrible. The good thing is, it sounds like this report, which I haven't had a chance yet to read, sounds like that there were no actual violations of rules and regulations. But certainly the appearance of a conflict is a bad thing, because it can undercut the credibility of the central bank.
Bill, Mike McKee here. I'm just wondering if you felt at the time, if anybody felt at the time, that either President Rosengren or President Kaplan had done anything wrong. The stories we have at the time suggested there was no pressure from the Federal Reserve for them to resign, but was it the right thing for them to do?
I'm not going to opine on that. What I will opine on is that you need to have a regime in place that creates confidence in the Federal Reserve System, and that regime needs to be robust. I think the thing that's sort of remarkable about this, frankly, is how long it's taken for the Inspector General to come out with these findings. It seems to me like this was something that could have been expedited much more quickly. So I'm not really sure why this took so long to become public.
That's a fair question. I also do wonder, is it a fair question to say, or fair kind of assessment to say, this should never have happened? This should have never even been a concern or cause for worry, Bill?
Well, I think there's always, with the benefit of hindsight, everything, looks obvious. I'll give you an example. When I was the president of the New York Fed, or when I was the head of the markets group of the New York Fed, there were very few restrictions on the trading activities of people within the bank, and you couldn't do things around FOMC meetings, but people were in possession of non-public information at other times, and the regime just wasn't very robust. And so when I became president, I changed that. I put in a much tougher regime, because I didn't think that the regime that we had in place was robust to. People were, behaving on their own, but you want something, you want governance and control above that.
I think the key headline here at the bottom line is that, according to the Inspector General, Rob Kaplan and Eric Rosengren did not do anything legally wrong. So it's more of an appearance of a conflict. Now, we also had issues at the same time with Jay Powell and Richard Clarida. Is that, do you think, behind the Fed now? Is this, you mentioned how long it took to get this report. Is this sort of ancient history and the Fed's moved on?
Well, I think it's ancient history in the sense that the Fed's changed all the rules. You can't do these things now that you could have done before. That's the same thing that I did when I was the president of the New York Fed. I basically said, this is a regime in place that allows too many things that could potentially happen that could create the appearance of conflict. Let's just tighten this up a lot so there's no question. There's no question, there's no risk. And I think that's what the Federal Reserve has done. So I don't think there's much risk of anything happening in the future. But, it would have been nice if you had tightened up the regime before this happened rather than after.